Guys, we've been over the best sneakers that have released this year, but now it's time to go over the flops. So with every pick getting increasingly worse, let's kick it off with the first one, the Jordan 1. Now, granted, this first pick is a little bit more of a generalization, not necessarily one specific pair, but that's just because pretty much every single Jordan 1 has flopped this year. The Jordan 1 has been sitting on shelves almost every single release, and they've had a pretty extreme loss of hype since the past couple years. I think the Jordan 1 has kind of been on the decline for a while now. However, here in 2023, I think it's pretty much hit the bottom. There's been 16 Jordan 1 OG highs that have released this year. And you know how many of those you can get for retail? None of them, because they're all under retail price, except for Palominos and maybe a couple others, but the vast majority. And I think one of the wildest parts about all of this is that we've had some of the best Jordan 1 colorways this year. UNC toes, washed blacks, the lucky greens. We've even had some OG colorways like the satin breads and the reimagined royals. And I think what really proves the point that it's not just the colorways that we've had this year, but Jordan 1s in general, is that if you look back at some of the market data on previous Jordan 1s that dropped back in 2020 or before that, even their prices have been plummeting down. So it really does just genuinely indicate people are finding Jordan 1s less appealing. And this is obviously a massive W for Jordan 1 fans, because the past 3 to 4 years trying to pick up a retail pair of Jordan 1s has been damn near impossible. But it does have a lot of people debating on what is this reason for the decline. Are people just tired of Jordan 1s and trends are moving on? Is the hype over now? Have people just stopped wearing them? Has Jordan Brand oversaturated the market by putting out way too many colorways and way too many versions? And I think it's a little bit of yes to all of them, because Jordan Brand definitely has done a lot of Jordan 1s, and I'm not just talking about OG highs. There's been a million OG Jordan 1 lows, regular Jordan 1 lows, mids, random off spins of the Jordan 1, and I think there's quite a few that we really just didn't need. Now, people definitely still wear Jordan 1s, but it definitely has slowed down a little bit, especially from what you see on social media. Trends change, and I think the Jordan 1 has slightly been phased out, at least for some people. But hey, I think we all know at this point that the Jordan 1 is a timeless pair of shoes, and it's never going to fully be deceased. I think we can definitely say that it's phasing out right now, especially from the hype that it was at, but people are still going to wear Jordan 1s, including myself. I'm not going to stop, that's for damn sure. Now, on a pretty similar note, but way more extreme, this next one is, of course, the Nike Dunk. Now, again, pretty similar story to the Jordan 1, and again, this is a more of a generalized pick instead of just one specific sneaker. But here we are. Dunks are sitting here in 2023. Now, granted, mostly GR dunks. The SB collabs still sell out and are pretty popular, but there is now more under retail dunks than ever before. You can even find some collaborations under retail. And if you thought Nike and Jordan Brand pumped out a lot of Jordan 1s, well, I literally cannot even count the amount of dunks that we've had here in 2023, even if I wanted to. Like, it literally may be in the triple digits. Every single colorway you could imagine has been put on a dunk, and that's not including all of the different restocks that we've had of previous dunks that we've had just a couple years ago. Regular dunk lows, dunk highs, SB collaborations, or just the random spin-off ones that we've seen increasingly over the past couple months. I think the dunk is very clearly oversaturated. There is a ton of dunks that I just think are not really necessary, and the SB Dunk Low collaborations are truly the last pair of dunks that are holding on to that hype factor. Even the hardest to kill Nike dunk of all time, the Pandas, are actually now pretty easily available. Again, this is somewhat of a positive thing for anybody who was struggling to get a pair of dunks. Now you've got a billion different options, but I kind of think that restocking the popular colorways could have been the answer to this, instead of pumping out a bunch of dunks that we never really asked for. Nike even put freaking dunk panels on a Zoom Vomero 5. Why? But yeah, the Nike Dunk, definitely a pretty big flop for 2023. I mean, it's only a matter of time before this pair of shoes was about to flop, because it was so incredibly hyped for the past 3 to 4 years. All right, let's get a little bit more specific on this. This next pick is the Nike OffWhite Air Force 1 Mid. Now look, I think we can all agree that this sneaker is at the very least polarizing. I mean, it has spikes, for God's sake. But I think the real problem with this pair of shoes is not even necessarily the design, it's just the fact that there's so many of them. Like, I kind of have a hard time believing that this is is what Virgil Abloh wanted for this pair of shoes. Obviously, I could be wrong. I don't think there's any other Nike and Off-White collaboration sneaker model that has had this many colorways. Apart from the Lot Dunks, obviously, those 50 different ones, but you could hardly call them different colorways. Look, I think there was genuine excitement when this pair of shoes first popped up with the first two colorways, the black and the white pair. And I was like, damn, this is a really interesting pair of shoes. It's something truly different and something that we would kind of expect from Off-White and Nike. And then the green pair released and we're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I mean, I guess why not make a leather one? And then the next colorway dropped and we're like, okay, not necessary, but fine. And then the next one and the next one, and now most of them are sitting on shelves or you could find them under retail. So I don't know, maybe this is all Nike has left from the Off-White sneakers that Virgil Abloh made and they're trying to keep that income stream alive. Either way, I kind of think that we've had a few too many of these shoes, and it seems like a lot of other people agree, because this pair of shoes was at the start pretty exciting, but now here in 2023 it is definitely flopped. All right, this next one is slightly generalized but at the same time pretty specific. It's Nike's Air Max. I feel like Nike has literally gone backwards with the Air Max model this year. Like ever since like the original Air Max, it really seems like Nike was trying to innovate when it came to the flagship Air Max sneaker. Would try and make it better and more futuristic and put more air in it. In 2017, when they came out with the Vapor Max, that had the most air that they had ever put in a sneaker. 2018 with the Air Max 270, which went on to become like one of the most popular shoes of all time. Then they even managed to top that in 2019 with the Air Max 720, which just had a ridiculous amount of air in it. This year, with the Air Max Pulse being the flagship model of the Air Max, I think it was just pretty disappointing. It literally seemed like to me just a recycled version of the 270. I definitely don't think it's a bad sneaker. I kind of like the way that it looks, but in terms of innovation, I was definitely hoping that something would pop up that was a little bit more exciting. And I think the general populace just never really felt this pair of shoes. I hardly ever see anybody wearing or talking about the Air Max Pulse. It really didn't feel like a flagship Air Max model. I saw so many people rocking the 720s, the 270s, the Vapor Maxes. I live in the UK, where the Air Max is like the national sneaker here. So yeah, I've hardly seen anybody wearing the Pulse. Now, to be fair to Nike, 2024, the Air Max DN is going to be their new flagship model, and I've got to say, that thing looks pretty insane. Yeah, I'm actually really excited to check that pair of shoes out, so hopefully 2024 we get some bangers, but this year it's been pretty disappointing, and definitely the Air Max Pulse is a flop. Alright, next up, it's pretty crazy to say this, but Yeezys. That's right, Yeezys had a pretty massive flop this year, and I do think the main reason why is Adidas. I don't think they planned the release of these Yeezy sneakers very well at all. I mean, we all know how quick they were to cut ties with Kanye West. I think just how big this collaboration and operation was to produce all of these Yeezys, they probably didn't have enough time to think about what happens after that. And then when they realized, oh shit, we're gonna lose millions, if not, I think it was actually $1 billion with these Yeezy products, we need to do something. And then this is where Adidas does the whole back and forth thing. They were like, oh look, we know what Kanye West said was bad, but they then decided to drop all of the Yeezys that they had sat in their warehouse. And look, as happy as I and many others were to grab some of the last Yeezy sneakers to ever exist, Adidas decided to drop these in just massive waves, just dump them out. On the second Yeezy drop that we had in August, there was 30 different Yeezys that released. How the hell is anybody supposed to buy that many pairs of shoes? Now granted, Yeezy Day is something that they had been doing, but all of those previous Yeezy Days were a lot more limited. They had a mixture of like high stock releases and then super low stock, so you weren't guaranteed to cop on a lot of the different pairs. They were actually planning on doing this 3 different times. We had the first one in like July, and then obviously the second one in August, and then they were planning another one this November. But obviously, as we know, they pulled the one that was supposed to happen this month, and they're going to move it potentially to 2024 or just cancel it entirely. Now, pretty much every single retailer that was selling Yeezys has a ton of pairs left over, and I don't feel like they know exactly what to do with them. Some retailers are even discounting them, which is something that I feel like I have never seen in my life. I think they would have been way better off just releasing them like normal sneakers. I feel like it would have helped a lot of people who wanted to get multiple pairs of Yeezys but didn't have the money to do it all at one time. You know, just do what every other company does when they have a hyped sneaker release. You do it weekly or like monthly. It really makes Adidas look like they hate the fact that they have to sell Yeezys, and they kind of want to do it under the radar without creating as much publicity as possible. They don't really promo it or anything. They just kind of like, oh, here, look, Adidas Confirmed app has a bunch of Yeezys, and then they try and just like shut it down immediately. You can find tons of pairs that used to cost like thousands. They're now sitting for retail or or under that. Alright, next up, this one's pretty disappointing because it's a category of shoes that I'm a huge fan of, and that is foam sneakers. This category really exploded when the Yeezy Foam Runner dropped back in 2019 or 2020. And when brands realized how many people loved a foam pair of shoes, every single sneaker brand suddenly started rushing around trying to release their own version of a foam pair of sneakers. It actually started off pretty dope because we got a lot of really cool creative things. Fear of God slip-ons made a lot of sense because it falls right in line with their kind of ethos and, you know, the loungewear comfy. Rock started popping off and releasing some insane collaborations that obviously has carried them through and made them super popular now. Then when you started seeing every other company seemingly releasing foam shoes just because, that's when it started taking a little bit more of a turn. And I do feel like Adidas is another main culprit of this. I mean, they started an entire new collection just for foam shoes. Adi Foam range, which arguably was the beginning of the end for their Yeezy collaboration as well. No, because that's when Kanye started accusing Adidas of stealing his designs. So wait, the Adi Foam range from Adidas does have some pretty solid options in there, and I'm not saying that it's bad. I am saying that some of them just don't seem like they've been fully thought out. And don't even get me started on Nike and Jordan's foam shoes. They don't even seem like they tried with those. It's just like, oh, we have to make foam shoes now? Fine, okay, just put something together. So yeah, I think the foam shoe category had a lot of potential and something I was truly excited about, but there was just nothing that really came out that seemed to be truly creative or take the world by storm. A lot of the foam shoes that you see brands release nowadays can be found pretty easily. I do think that the foam sneaker category has definitely, it's flopped a bit here in 2023 for sure. Alright guys, I want to drop in one last sneaker, and it's from my man Drake's sneaker line Nocta. Now to be fair to Drake, I don't know if anybody really expected anything incredible from him in terms of like fashion and sneakers. I want to preface this by saying I do like the hot steppers for what they are. I do have to say the whole Nocta brand itself doesn't even really feel like it has anything to do with Drake. It almost just feels like it's Nike's thing and Drake's face is just attached to it and Nike's doing all of the designing in the back room. Everything they've released just seems extremely safe. Very slight remixes to already existing Nike products, and this kind of goes for the sneakers and the clothing. I think the riskiest thing I've seen from Nocta is like the snakeskin version of the hot steps. What happened this year for all of the Nocta sneakers to kind of be flops? Well, for starters, most of them that have released are all sat under retail. Some of them pretty significantly. Like someone bought those pink snakeskins for like 60 bucks. The hot step specifically did have a lot of people roasting it when it was first announced. A lot of people seem to just compare that pair of shoes to like a K-Swiss or a Fila. But regardless if you think that it's ugly or not, I think we can all agree that I think Nocta just lacks a bit of creativity. And given the fact that the biggest sneaker company in the world is collaborating with the biggest rap artist in the world, even some of the newer models, I just feel like they just look like shoes that Nike could have created easily themselves with their own design team. They didn't really need Drake for it. Yeah, I hope that this is just a little blip in the Nocta brand and that we do see some really dope stuff next year or with their future releases. But as of right now, Nocta in 2023, I haven't been feeling, and I don't think a lot of other people have been feeling either. But there you go guys, the biggest flops of 2023. Let me know what you would add to this list down in the comment section, and click here to check out another video.